right, everybody, we are back. Another episode of the Intelligent Edge podcast. My name is Matt Buchowski. I'm your host today. I'm here with an amazing guest. His name is Rudy Ganesh, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Hotelzify, a very interesting early stage startup that's really kind of embracing this whole David and Goliath type story like a lot of great companies are right now. So, Rudy, say hi to our audience.
Hey everyone, nice being here. Thanks, Matt, for having me.
Of course. Rudy, I don't want to give any, I hate actually to tell people a story for them. Why don't you take, like 30, 60 seconds and tell the audience who you are and what you're doing right now?
Sure. So, I did my computer engineering, then was a developer for a couple of years, then became a product manager for a couple of years, and finally became a founder. So, I had a kind of been across the spectrum. Today, I run Hotelzify with my CTO and co-founder, where we are working on building AI agents for hotels, specifically in the domain of sales and marketing. The idea is that can we drive hotels more direct business where they pay a lower cost of acquisition, say ranging from 5 to 8%, versus say the 20-25% that you typically pay an online travel aggregator.
Amazing. So super, crowded space. I was just on Expedia last night looking at some travel accommodations for my family and I've done my share of business travel, and very rarely, if ever, do I book direct. And so just from an economics perspective, like if I am, proprietor at a Embassy Suites or some sort of Marriott brand, what's the typical margin that I'm sacrificing by doing a booking through an Expedia or Kayak or one of these other platforms versus doing business through Hotelzify?
Right. So if you're doing it through a brand, like let's say you're doing it through Booking.com and Expedia, they would charge you somewhere between uh, 15 to 25%. 15 is for bigger hotel brands, so Marriott can kind of get a lower rate because they're getting so much supply together. If you're an independent hotel, say you have 2-3 hotels, you'll probably be paying somewhere at a blend of about 20%. If you're with Hotelzify, you would be paying about 5%.
Wow, there's a huge cost difference there.
Yeah.
Okay. I definitely want to dig into more on the Hotelzify story. Specifically, you touched on agents and stuff. Before we do that, though, let's roll back the clock a little bit because I'm super impressed with kind of your professional journey. You had some time at some amazing companies before going out and kind of putting your flag in the ground and starting up your own thing. So looks like you started at J.P. Morgan Chase, 10 so years ago back in Mumbai, and then here you are in San Francisco today. So maybe you can give our audience a little background on your journey.
Yeah, sure. I think, yeah, when I was in university, you always try to work in a company that's well known, and I think JP Morgan was a great start because in terms of structure, in terms of how teams are set up, it was a great place to be. I also actually met my first mentor there who convinced me that I should leave eventually and try to do something on my own. And I met him just last weekend in SF for a couple of drinks. So I think it's a nice place. I think I met a lot of people who gave me the right advice, were able to look at my potential and tell me what to do. I think after that, I joined a startup where I led product and I got acquired by Amazon. So that was a different journey. So one is where you're working in a company where the team size itself is probably 200 people. The next company, I think when I joined, we were about 20 people. So very different in terms of there are no clear roles and responsibilities. If you can pick something up, you do it. I absolutely loved that. I think being someone who kind of loves working in a team, I enjoyed that responsibility. And then in Amazon, I think I spent another 2.5 years. And something in Amazon which I learned was the thought process to every product feature. I don't think there are many companies in the world who take so much time to think through a product, but apart from thinking through it, they document it. They even go to a point where they think about if I release a product feature and I have to put a news article on that, how is that PR going to be? What is it that an audience is going to read in that PR and feel, wow, this is amazing? Really marrying what product you're building, the value it brings, and how it's perceived by your consumer. And this is one company which I saw doing that really well because they actually thought about that end to end even before developing something, which is very different from how it is typically. Typically, people just build a feature out and then someone puts a video saying, hey, we released this, and then you hope it's perceived or people like it, which works if you're a good PM. But I think the way Amazon did it was truly eye-opening in that sense. And that's something we use even at Hotelzify today. So yeah, I think that was my journey there. I learned a lot about, I think the one thing in e-commerce that you learn is how do you always convert more. So when I first used to see hotel websites or even say a vacation rental website, I used to realize that they weren't working on converting me. Many of them had very graphic heavy or content heavy websites, which was great. Many of them just had a website saying, if you want, here's the booking, here's the way you can book rooms, but not very easy. Whereas if you go to an Amazon, if you go on the checkout page and you don't pay, you'll probably get an email with a retargeting email saying, hey, Matt, you had something in your cart. We're still holding it for you. Small things, but they matter, right? They all add up cumulatively. If in Amazon you see that inventory is not available for a particular item, you can say notify me, and when stock comes in, they'll notify you. A lot of these things were not there on hotel websites. So we said, hey, can we build something that can help a small hotel owner set up their website in say 10 minutes? A very simple do it yourself builder. And the website's main metric to them should be how much business it drove. So we won't keep it as can we make the most beautiful website for you, but can we drive the most business? And that's how you should compare us versus say another platform. And that was our main focus. Take whatever we learned in Amazon, in e-commerce, and bring that to hospitality.
Nice. So much to unpack there. Couple things, right? So you spent time at J.P. Morgan Chase. You had two. It looks like two different runs at J.P. Morgan Chase. Like, what was it? J.P. Morgan's one of the biggest, financial institutions on earth. What was it like for you to adjust from big company culture, right? Not everybody does this, and I'm sure you don't, but people go to some of these big companies, they hide, right? They have kind of the classic 9 to 5 job and they stay there forever versus you kind of make your bones in big finance or big FinServe, and then you join a startup, gets acquired by another big company, and then you go back to, a small company, but this one's your own. So like, how did you adjust to that? How did you recalibrate your work, your thought process, your expectations, etc.?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I never thought of it now until you asked me. But I think in most companies, the way I look at work is still the same. That hey, what is it that I have to do? I'm not even if say they say it's a 9 to 6 job, I would if I think at 7 o'clock I still have work left to finish or something that I couldn't that I got an idea that I want to finish. I'm someone who might take 15 minutes and just pen it down then and there. So I think typically if your mindset is I want to create value and do my best at my job, I think it doesn't really matter if you're at a big company or a small one. Obviously, at JP and Amazon, I was on teams where I think they're very ambitious, and then that's very important. So you need to see which team you're in. I think being a part of ambitious teams, especially when you're young, is really helpful because if you're not part of that, you learn what I would say as wrong things. I feel you might start learning, not being able to think outside the box, not being able to push yourself when needed. And at some moments you need to, right? You do have moments in your work career where you might have to do more than what is say your 9 to 6 job because maybe your team is under fire, maybe your customers are not able to use the product. So I think the teams I worked in were ambitious. Everyone there wanted to do, really great stuff. The first team I met in JP Morgan was a startup within the company because we started with three of us. By the time I left, I think about 60 of us in that team. So, it was people really building out a product from scratch. So they were building it quickly. There was almost every 3 days a release happening in terms of product features. Um, so I think that definitely helped just being in the right teams where ambition was high and, they wanted high urgency from the team as well.
Yeah.
I think the other change is when you go from a big team to a smaller startup, there are a lot of things that big companies take care for you. For example, let's say your laptop's charger is not working, or maybe your desk is not fine, maybe your payroll processing is done exactly on time. The smaller startups tend to have, you need to be mindful about that, especially when we started. How do we set those processes up in place? A lot of times you don't have people to do them. So I remember when we first started, even the water bottles in the office and like getting pens and stationery was something I did because we didn't have anyone to do those things. So I think you have to be mindful about, yes, these are the things that anyone who joins our company is going to expect. They are not going to put it as an excuse saying, hey, this is a startup, so it's fine if they don't give me these things. Right? So if there is facilities in terms of what you have in your office space, stationery, all of these things have to be done. And maybe in the start, if you're a small team with just two or three people, as in maybe two of you founders and say two more or three more people, then as a founder, you need to do all of those things as well and be mindful that just because you're a small team doesn't mean you don't do that, because I think it would affect team morale. Teams want to feel comfortable on their work, so they want everything available to them, and then they're able to optimize their work. So those are small things that I realized in the start when we started Hotelzify. I had to change. I had to be very open to say that I'm also an HR, I'm also an admin, I'm also a product guy, but I'm also CEO. So you have to wear whichever hat's needed then and be fine with it.
Yeah, I love that. Something else that you said that really kind of stood out to me before is that, you can go from a larger team to 200 people. So as I think exactly what you said, and everybody's got very well defined roles, whereas you join a startup and you're 20 people and the roles aren't as clear. It's just a matter of everybody helping out to make sure the work gets done. How how do you and your team manage that? Because there's marketing components, there's dev components, there's still organizational things that you got to do. Are you hiring based on people's you know definition or capabilities to do the job, or to really collaborate and contribute to the collective?
Right. So right now, I think what we've realized is in our team of 20, we need to have 3 to 4 people who are generalists who could probably do more than one thing. But the remaining 16 we're hiring with very clear goals that this is what their skill set should be, and this is what they would do to complement that. The generalists are actually our older team employees who've been there, say for from the start for the 2 years that we've been there, and we know that they know the product well enough that say they could shift between product and sales. Someone could shift between product and customer success. Someone could shift between tech and product. So kind of. But most of our team now, I think we've realized it'll make more sense to have very specific roles, because as we've become bigger, we operate across multiple continents as well. It's if you have very generic roles, especially for new team members who come in, who the founders can't really train and spend as much time with, then they get confused about what's their role itself. So now we kind of very clearly understand that, hey, this person should fit in here. When we hire, we see that, hey, maybe if this doesn't work, they could do something else as a complementary uh, task, so that you kind of, because sometimes you take punts which don't work as a startup, but then can you move them across? For a large part, I think 95% they are very clear what they would work on, and you want to focus them on those particular tasks itself.
I love it. Okay, cool. That's very descriptive. Thank you. All right, so you have this great background. You work in small teams, started off with small teams in JP Morgan Chase. You go to Perpule, that gets acquired by Amazon. You hang around there for a better part of 2 years. When you started to get really passionate about wanting to start your own business and make a run out of it as an entrepreneur, like, what was it about the hotel ecosystem, or what was it like? What pain did you decide to solve on? What was your thought process on landing into the AI powered hotel marketing space that is frankly like a David and Goliath story, like we were talking a little bit before.
Yeah, so I think when we first started, AI wasn't a thing, so we were focusing on just a simple solve, right? That, hey, you have Shopify in retail. Do you have Hotelify in hotel space? We didn't get Hotelify, so we made it Z5. But fundamentally, was it easy for someone to build out their own website quickly on a self-serve model and then have solutions connected for marketing, for payments, for retargeting and messaging and things like that? So that was what we initially built out. With the advent of AI, I think one opportunity we saw is that we can also take care of sales and marketing, because obviously AI can analyze data, create content, and create campaigns much more quickly. So today, for example, we have over 15,000 hotels where our AI marketing managers creating campaigns dynamically, updating those campaigns, changing the bids, changing the target zones, changing the zip codes which we focus on. So we realized AI can do that at a much larger scale um, than a human can, just because there's so much data to kind of analyze and then go through. So that was, and it also complemented our first vision very well, that we want to drive more direct business. I think in terms of competing with the bigger players, I think the biggest advantage we've seen is that when a hotel owner comes, typically they're talking to a sales manager of a big company, while if they're talking to us, they're talking to either me or our core team.
Rudy,
So
let's
that definitely helps to
hear.
build trust, and they know what, we know what we're doing. We can give them more in-depth answers on how we kind of will achieve those results. So I think that helps. And the second I feel is a lot of what we have built has been AI first. So we've not had to move from an agency model, which is where you have people actually building marketing campaigns, and then switching that to a AI model. We were AI first with our product because we were obviously younger and newer to the space. So in terms of that, I think suddenly we might have a first mover advantage versus the bigger companies, right? Because they are still moving into the AI realm and adding this, whereas we've already added it about a year and a half back, and we're scaling it at this point. So I think we do have advantages just because we were the right place at right time. And if we can keep optimizing this to be quicker, which does mean our teams work harder and maybe even sometimes 70, 80 hours weeks. But if we're able to scale that quickly, then you will be able to add more features, more value for your users, which will give more outputs to them as well.
Got it. So when you think back to the last 3 years, I tend to look at my businesses in phases, right? You kind of got the very early stages where you're finding your ICP, you're identifying your TAM, you're getting super, sophisticated or as sophisticated as you can be. You get the build process, etc. Like, what has the last 3 years been like for you as you embark on this new?
Yeah, in the first 1 year was us just building our MVPs and trying it out on whichever hotels they wanted. We used to, in fact, say it's free and just understand how they use the product, understand who are the users who potentially could would pay us, understand how much they would pay, and really get that pricing right. The second year, I think we understood what should be a GTM strategy, at least in terms of how do we want to reach out. So we very strongly said, hey, we're too small to go and visit each hotel, so let's have a call-based GTM strategy. Just because the cost of acquisition would make sense given our scale and how small we were. Um, and then I think the last year is where, I think that was the year we kind of went full time into it. So we went full time doing this for 2 years. So I think that was the first year was just trying to scale it up in a cost efficient way. Let's not spend too much money, but get enough scale to understand what are the macro patterns that we're seeing. So for example, if you have 1,000 hotels, which and Pareto is a big part here, right? So which 20% of your hotels are doing a lot better and driving most of your revenue, analyzing that and really ensuring we understand who's our customer base, which drives most revenue. And the last year has been a lot of AI. I think been the complementary solution. So we have access to a hotel's rates, inventory, pricing, and this is all on the website first. So we said, hey, can we have it on a chat assistant or a call agent as well, so that it complements the direct channel? Because you might have 100 people coming on your website, three book, but 97 do not. And in the 97, maybe five interact with you. Maybe you could get one or two more to book and make that five out of 100. And let's say you're doing 100,000 visits every month, then suddenly you're doing about 5,000 bookings a month. Sorry, 500 bookings a month. So I think that was the idea, that can we understand where we can add AI agents to complement our first solution. And the last 1 year has been focused on that. And I think second is we've understood a good ICP of small brands. So think of brands which are between 3 to 4 hotels to 100 hotels who do not have in-house technical teams, who want to scale and have the best tech like a Marriott does. So I think that's a focus where we have seen the best value because they're interested in scaling their brand. They don't have all the abilities and of tech. And a few case studies we did, we were able to drive them, say, 30% revenue increments in a time like this when typically travel has been quite down, and every hotel you meet will probably tell you that they are doing lower business this time, same time this year as last year.
Is that the type of feedback that you're getting from the market where business is down year over year?
Yeah, I think the past few months have been a bit tough with, I think, the government shutdown, to also some level of government travel having reduced. I think international travel has also dipped because of that. So overall, if you look at even, I think, flight traffic data coming into the US, that's dropped a bit. But most hotels are down, say, anywhere between 2 to 3% of same time last year. But there are some segments which are doing well. So luxury is still doing much better. But yeah, I think overall the market has had a blip. Until it gets better, I think the the thing that what we realized though is that it's not that while the market has gone down, there are still enough opportunities which are not being seized. So, for example, if a hotel is getting 25 calls a day, that's 750 calls a month of potential leads, right? And if you even convert 5% or 10% of them, which is pretty reasonable to do, 75 calls that you convert, which is normally otherwise 25 would probably convert because your front desk is not going to follow up. Sometimes you don't even pick up. Those extra 50 bookings ensure you're up 2, 3% or 5%. So it's a game of small margins, and I think what we have realized is that if you do those basics right and you ensure you juice out every opportunity you get, one is you get a lot more efficient, and when things get better, you'll be even more higher. But even now, you can actually do better than what you were doing before.
Amazing. I love that. And thanks for breaking that down for us. You talked a little bit about go to market, which is a topic I'm super passionate about. You said something really important before, where the economics of going out and visiting all these hotels, right, would just blow your CAC out of the water. And so you went with more of a call based go to market. Like, what did that look like? Are you using AI in kind of a business development type structure, or did you hire a core group of salespeople? Were they US based? Were they offshore based? Like, how did you start V1 of the go to market motion?
Yeah, so we've used AI to find leads and to like say do the grunt work. We have not used AI to make calls yet. I think that's still a bit. Sales is the most emotionally challenging role, right? Because you need to build trust, you need to build emotion. So all our salespeople are in each market that they operate in. So the US sales team is based here. We have someone in LA, we have someone in Florida. So in Saudi, we have another person who's local there. I think because my learning has been that people need to feel that they're talking to someone who they can trust. And the more closer you are to someone, the easier it is to build trust, right? You have stories to talk about, you have similar backgrounds that you can share. So sales has largely been a person calling someone or emailing someone, setting up a meeting, and then getting them on a Zoom or a Google Meet or whatever. So that's been our process for sales. AI SDRs, I think, from whatever I have researched in the market, and I'm also in SF now where I've been meeting people, I think it's not there yet. I think the pitch is that it'll get there very soon, right? But I think at this point of time, probably not there. And if it does get there, then we would definitely look at that as an option to maybe qualify the leads. Which means if I could do my first level of calling, right today, for example, one guy does 50 calls, maybe that AISDR could do 200 and qualify me the leads that or the numbers at least. Because a lot of times you get a lot of junk numbers as well. So the AISDR could qualify that. It would optimize my sales team's time as well because they spend a lot of time with junk numbers. Probably start with that and then see how it goes.
Got it. Okay, so it sounds like you have feet on the street in some of your key markets. You're really taking the kind of relationship based, trust based approach rather than automate some of the upfront pipeline generation. What's your value prop as you're calling into these companies, into the hotels?
So typically we try to find out something that's missing in their hotel already. For example, we might see that hey, your direct website is priced higher than Expedia and Booking, and because of that, I think you're losing about $15,000 a month. So that would be, you show them what's wrong and you show them what's the revenue miss. Typically, it's 10,000. Hey, no, it can't be that much. My price is fine. And you say, no, see, it's not. And then we actually have a tool which can adjust price directly. So your direct channel is always priced best. So what we have done is built out an AI agent which can check your price of your hotel on Expedia and Booking. And when these platforms dynamically change price, AI will also change the price on your website so that you are price competitive to them, maybe a dollar or two less or a couple of a percentage or two down. But the idea is doing this ensures you're able to give the best rates. So that's typically how we start. We try to show them a problem pain point and then a value of what that will get them for their hotel. If not that, we then start with some case studies where we show them, hey, this is a hotel that worked next to you, and we've been able to add 20% more revenue for them in the month of September versus same time last year. Would you like to know how we can do it for your hotel? And yeah, those are the two strategies we use. And at least because a lot of times you're also being a receptionist, so the receptionist needs to think that this is important enough that I take it to my GM. So that's something that we've realized if we show more impact, then the receptionist also think it's important at least to give us the GM email or maybe let their GM know, and then they can always follow up.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's great. It sounds like you got that really dialed in. What's it been like for you, Rudy, to really step in and transition into a CEO role? Like the CEO role is very demanding and takes a whole lot of a variety of different skill sets. What's that transition been like for you, and what have you learned? What have you learned on your own, and what have you learned the hard way?
Okay. I think the hard way I've learned that you can't expect your job is not to tell people what to do and then hope it gets done. And if it doesn't, you kind of just berate them and say, hey, what happened? I think you need to think you'll also tell people, but you'll also have to end up doing it because especially when people come in new to the company, as a CEO, sometimes we forget that their knowledge base might be much lesser than what ours is, right? Because you're always looking at things in your perspective that, hey, I know all of this, so everyone should know it. But you forget that this person is new, probably never worked in the industry. So, which means in the start, you need to, even if you get someone for the first 6 months, you might be doing a lot of their work till they reach that point, especially because it's small, we don't have everything documented yet. The second, I mean, that was something I learned the hard way. I think I initially used to think that what I need to do is hire the right people in the right place and then everything will work like magic. I think that happens when you're a little bigger. So, probably when you're a 50, 60 man team, that's really important. But in initial days, you need to think of yourself as someone who will have to do that work as well. Yeah, I think the other thing that I learned is a CEO and there are two people who can never sleep. I think the success team and a CEO. So you need to be able to be available, right, to your customers. Not that I mean I don't mean that literally someone calls you at 4 a.m. you need to pick it up and close it then, but you need to then make it a point that when you wake up at 8 and you see all your emails, you see your messages, reply back because a lot of customers feel it's not about performance sometimes. It's just they want to feel that the founders of the company are reachable and I can get a response from them. Many times I don't think I give the best response to that problem. I think my team does a better job because a few of them know their work better than I know it. But that optics of feeling that, hey, this guy is always available is important to your customers. And that's something that initially I used to think logically, saying, hey, this guy is better at what this answering this question, so let him answer it. But I realized it's not about that. It's just about they want to feel that the CEO cares about my company or I'm an important client to them. And in that, a CEO responding helps.
Got it. Yeah, I completely agree. You mentioned that CS is one of the two teams that doesn't get the chance to sleep. I agree with that, right? Those folks, I think there's a lot going on right now in the world of customer success, right? You think about, VP of sales who's out there getting, winning new logos every day, which is kind of the perceived most difficult part of the sales cycle. But then again, you got customer success leaders that are out there that, are responsible for growing wallet share from the existing customers. And the way you do that is by making sure that their problems are solved, they're using the technology, adoption is high, you're driving net revenue expansion, so on and so forth. So, like, how is the role of CS grown inside of Hotelzify, and what are those folks working on right now?
Yeah, I think back on what you said, I think initially they were focused on resolving issues and just getting product adoption. I think the last 6 months, a big part of their focus has been improving the NRR or the revenue that we're able to drive from the same customer and we're expanding that ACV with them. And I think that makes it a lot more harder because initially you were only supporting your client and ensuring they were happy. Whereas now you're also trying to upsell and cross sell to them. So I think that's become a key focus for them now. The second thing I think that we kind of added in with time was we identified key accounts. Obviously, like in a lot of SaaS companies, you do have 80% of your revenue probably driven by 20% of your clients. So we kind of had key account managers for them, giving them that additional, care or maybe look, that attention that helps keep the client happy. I think that's something we added in around 7 months back as well. So the idea is you have a few generalist success team members who handle all accounts who probably are the first level of defense. But for your accounts which are important to you and are part of your top 20%, you also have dedicated Slack groups, WhatsApp groups, emails, manager as well who they can call so that there's someone who can instantly try to help them and they feel consistency that, okay, I just need to call Kevin all the time to get my resolutions because it makes it easier for them. Whereas if you're doing the general support, you somehow explain your situation, it's not as personalized. I think that helps, and that's something we've added in as well. So two things: one is dedicated account managers, and second is I think for the success team, A lot of metrics now on how much product adoption are you driving and how much are you able to get new products, used by a customer, which is improving our revenue per customer.
Love that. Awesome. So you mentioned before an example of one of the AI agents that you're using and how it looks at booking.com or whatever and looks for the price that they're offering the hotel room for, and then you're suggesting back to the the actual hotel to lower their price by a couple of bucks so they have a lower price. It's more attractive. You know, the thesis to your company is using AI to better run advertising campaigns for hotels to drive the right kind of traffic. So how do you unpack that for our listeners? Like, what are the actual mechanics and strategies that you're using there?
Yes, I think when you do advertising, one of the most important things from a consumer mindset is even if I see your advertisement, but you're cheaper on, say, Amazon for a product or you're cheaper on booking.com, I would see your ad, I would interact with it, but I'll go and book where it's the best price for me. And a lot of humans have the same mentality, right? So what we realize is that just doing marketing as a hotel, they would say, "Hey, we did marketing, we spent X dollars, but what's the revenue we drove?" And sometimes you can't drive revenue if your price is wrong. So that's where we kind of built out the agent to not only suggest but update the price directly real time, where we're able to even underwrite the risk, which means that if our system, when a hotel signs up with us, we also tell them if the system changes the price but it's incorrect, which means, let's say you said it's $100 room, we saw Expedia had 90 and we made it 89, and that's fine. But let's say we made it $9, then we will pay the remaining because we're able to, we're that sure about our software. But we realize it's very important that the price is right. Otherwise, you're not going to have an impact on marketing. And the way we look at it is, uh, we saw that it was very broken in the sense that you had today in a hotel, you have someone who's built your website, you have someone who's doing your booking engine or booking ability, and then you have someone doing marketing, which is another agency, and then you may or may not have either a human-based contact center system or your front desk or maybe a couple of softwares doing chat and call separately. And all these four would not talk to each other, but all four are accomplishing the same goal, which is to drive you more direct business. The reason we kind of realize you have to do all of it together is because that's when you can ensure accountability. It's easier for the hotel to come in and say that, hey, I'm working with Hotelzify, they drove me say $70,000 worth of revenue, I paid them $1,000 for the month, I can see input output very clearly. It also keeps it easier for us because then we can control that end to end journey and kind of drive the value, not dependent on say, hey, we gave you some leads, but no one called them. So that's how we kind of looked at marketing and said, marketing alone is not enough. You need to combine it with these things. And just marketing alone, I think something very unique to our industry is in most other, in a retail industry, you know your brand and you know your ICP. It could be people who are between say 20 to 24, probably in these zip codes, and this is the amount they would spend, and then you keep focusing them all year round. The only thing that you change is based on seasonality. You might have a Happy Halloween ad or a Christmas ad, and then you kind of have Black Friday ads, or trying to change the content based on that. In hotels and travel, the user base itself changes based on seasonality. So, for example, if we take a place like Phoenix, we've noticed that in season you'll probably have a lot of HNIs, a lot of families coming in. But if you look at pre-season and post-season, you'll have a lot of young adults who are looking for a good deal, but who still want to enjoy the place coming in. So you need to kind of focus on who is your target audience based on the season, and that changes with in hotels it changes every month. It changes even based on where Taylor Swift's having a concert, or which game is happening close by. So this change that keeps happening is what our AI does really well. We get data from Google, we understand what are the audience profiles coming to that particular region. We also take past data from the hotel to understand what is their guest profile over the last 2 3 years based on each month, and then marry those two together to really create campaigns which focus on the guests, the hotel's ideal customer profile. Because there are a lot of people who travel, but for a hotel with a limited budget, what's important is focusing on the right audience type who is going to most likely book with them.
Tremendous. Thanks for that. Um, so tell us, help us understand a little bit, Rudy. Like, I have this thesis that companies that have been founded, much like yours in the last couple of years, are tending to lead with an AI first value prop, an AI first infrastructure, an AI first everything, right? AI is just kind of born into the culture. Much like, 7 or 8 years ago, there was the saying, I'm sure you heard about this, like companies were just born into the cloud. They didn't have to worry about technical debt and moving applications from servers to public or private clouds. How fast, you're on the front lines of this, so how fast are things changing, and how are the strong going to survive?
I mean, I think a lot of the bigger companies will acquire, and I do see that happening already, I think a bit, but I think that will probably be a route they take if they're not able to be fast enough to build. Though I think with the AI wave, it's very clear that even the big companies have started deploying solutions quite early. They might not be having great results yet, but it's not something that is catching them by surprise, which means they're not. I don't think the big companies are coming and saying, hey, no, AI is a fad. We don't believe in it. We'll wait and watch and see what happens. I think they're also pretty clear that, AI is the future and we need to start investing in it now. I think with the cloud, I used to remember some companies who would actually say that no, the cloud is not needed. It's not going to be cheaper in the long run, and they were still kind of going against that grind, which means they were delayed in implementing cloud tech onto their platforms itself. So I think that's a difference with AI. I feel most people, even if you're a big company like Google or OpenAI or say, even Salesforce for that matter, the bigger, larger companies as well, or HubSpot, all of them are deploying AI solutions actively. I think I mean, this is what we think is the advantage for smaller companies is you need to find your niche and do that really well. So if you're doing it in a particular industry for a particular use case, really scale that and scale that fast so that you kind of get your initial users, you get enough traction, and you have a product which is perfect for that use case, and then probably look at expanding to other use cases as well post that. But I think it'll be interesting in the sense that I think certain industries are very challenging, right? I think, like for example, customer support. I've seen, I think at least over $50 billion, I think, put into different companies. In the sense that there are some big companies investing into their own customer support divisions, and then AI companies as well. So that's going to be interesting because everyone's saying they'll do everything. Who's going to win is something even I find quite intriguing to watch. And I think there are the other parallels companies like us which are focusing on one industry and in that industry one use case. So we only do sales and marketing. We probably wouldn't do after stay support. So our focus is just trying to do this really well. And I think if you're able to do that, ideally, I think you should see some value add because it's hard to copy something that is too specific initially. But people are going to do breadth first. So you do your depth, do that well, and then expand. That's at least our strategy and thought process, that do a few things really well. And if it's adding revenue, that's the best place to be at, because if you are adding revenue, your ability to price increases a lot more. Whereas if you're a cost efficient solution, then it starts getting competitive, right? Because you're going to have someone in the competition coming in and saying, hey, I'll offer this at a 50% discount. It's not revenue driving, you're okay to switch software also because it's not that much of a risk. So I think our thought process is, maybe focus on sales, marketing, revenue, and have AI agents doing that specifically well. And yeah, I think there will be some big companies which build things as well, and that's good. I think they'll also educate your clients, and you need to focus on. So we have a list of 20 companies we think are potential competition to us, and we keep monitoring them, see what they're doing. And any meeting we know we're not better, it's something we take very personally and say, okay, that's not something that should happen. Because if you're a smaller startup, you are nimble, you have a right to win in our head. Like you should be better.
I like it. Thank you. So you clearly you're using an AI driven value prop, excuse me, to win new logos, win customers, etc. How are you and how is the rest of the company leveraging AI internally, in order to make the sausage?
Yeah, I mean, we had an AI day recently, so we told everyone that, what are you using AI for in your work? And something very interesting I found was, so we have a dashboard for our customer success team, and they need to make changes. And there was one person in our team who basically said that I just have Perplexity's comment on. I connected to the dashboard, and I just put a bunch of commands of what needs to be updated. It takes 30 minutes, but I do other things in process. So he has not used the dashboard that we've built for our success team for over 2 months now. And I was very impressed. I thought that's great, right? Yeah, because it's repetitive work. You need to go click a drop down, set something right. It's not extremely difficult to do. So I think that was one use case I saw someone internally using it, that's on the success team. Then from a technical team, someone demoed us how they would built out their dashboard and got like two things. So one is they built out a new feature completely using Cloud Code, then pushed that into GitHub, and then we're able to deploy that. And I think he showed us something that would have taken him 4 days. He built it in 2 hours. So that's like new code deployments using AI is much easier. And then he also showed us a feature where he had old code existing, and then he had connected to an AI tool which was telling them that, hey, these are the mistakes potentially or security threats you have. So you can check this and modify your code or have a look at it. So security also is pretty big because as you start scaling, that is a genuine worry that you can have. And I think an AI tool which can at least probably do 90% of that and give you those places where you can potentially be under threat. That was pretty impressive. I think how they were able to use that tool to get that resolved. Yeah, I think these are three things I found very interesting. Internally, our sales team also uses AI for doing research. So let's say a particular client is there and we have a checklist of 20 things a hotel should do on the digital front. It'll check it, give them the updates. Then we have a templatized proposal so where they can copy paste things in. And the next idea we have is we just want to be able to even create those proposals automatically with the help of AI, so that you can give them a report. It can be something even hotels could come on our website, enter their property details, and get a detailed report on that. And that would be something next that we want to do.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so clearly your company, your team, it seems like they're AI guided in a bunch of different aspects of the job and a bunch of different departments. So I absolutely love that. We're coming up on the end of time here, Rudy. So I want to be thankful to you and everything that you've shared with us today. Before we go, tell us a little bit about the future for you and Hotelzify. What are the things that you're thinking about, keeping your eye on? Let's start there, and I'll have one more follow up question for you after that.
Sure, yeah. I think for the next 1 year, we want to really scale in the US market, and that's our core focus. We want to be able to reach a place where AI call agents can handle 70-80% of the calls. Because I do believe there's going to be 20% which you still have to transfer. But I think we want to be able to at least help front desk receptionists, sales and marketing teams with the grunt workload. And it's as good as a human. I think that's a key focus for us from a product standpoint. And yeah, I think if we do these two things in the next 1.5 years, we'll be pretty happy. We try to don't keep too many goals because at the moment, the second you do that, you get confused and there's too much you get too overwhelmed. So simple goals of which is the market you want to expand. We do have revenue goals as well internally where we want to like probably do a 5x revenue increment by same time next year. And what is that product that's going to be our hero, which we think has a lot of potential, and then focus on that.
Love it. Love it. What's one suggestion that you would have, Rudy, for folks that, let's call it small to medium businesses under 100 employees that may be behind the curve on AI adoption? What would you say to those folks, and how would you suggest they hit fast forward and catch up to where the market is today?
Yeah, I think the first thing is incentivize your employees because people do not want to change, right? If I'm coming and doing my job and getting paid, human beings are not naturally going to change because they have to. Sorry, yeah, because they want to. They would if they have to. And I think the way to do that is have, so like we've always been concerned about is AI being adopted enough as a company. So one thing that I do is I go and see what other companies do. And every time I see that we're not doing two, three things, I would go and tell my team, hey, they're doing this and we should do it. The second thing I think that worked really well was we had something called as an AI open day, where we gave every team member of ours 15 minutes to show how they're using AI. And at the end of it, I think we gave gift cards from $1,000 to $500 to each of them. And our idea is to do this every month because people think that, hey, that's a cost. But to me, that's the quickest way to adopt AI right now. Everyone, the next event I have is going to say, hey, that guy got $1,000 gift card. Let me go for it and try it. So he or she's gonna come with a lot more intent. And I think it's fine. Like you need to understand human beings are they like financial incentives, right? That's what we all work for. And I think connecting that with your employees to help them push them to use AI is I think the quickest way. Because if you're 100 people, you probably can't go and micromanage each person and see are they using AI, but you can incentivize them to use AI in the right way. Because I remember I met one employee who said, "Hey, I thought if I use AI, you will think that I'm not working enough." And I said, "No, man, that's good. If you're working 6 hours and you're able to finish everything and be more productive, I'll be happier. It's not like I want you to sit at work. And if not that, I said the second thing you can do is take those remaining 2 hours and maybe learn something and make yourself better, right?" So I think that process you need to kind of build that culture and make it okay that we want you to use AI, we're rewarding you to use AI, because I think a lot of people feel that management say AI is a buzzword now because it's the right thing to say, but you need to match that with the actions you have as a company itself, and then take certain modules where you think AI can work. If you don't know, I think there's so many events happening across the world today, and in every city. If you take New York, Dallas, SF, I think most cities. I was in Denver the other day, and I saw a lot of events happening there too. Every evening there's some AI meetup. Just go over there, talk to people for 2 hours, and you will get at least 5 ideas.
Yeah. So the AI, like the cash incentive for usage and best use case on AI is awesome. How often do you and how often do you do that?
So we started this last month, but we're trying to do this now every month, or at least for the next 6 months, and then evaluate how it is. Because at some point, maybe I'll reach a peak where I don't have as much. Like people don't have anything new to show me. If they don't, then we'll probably do it once in 2 months. But for the next 6 months, you want to aggressively do this because I think the company needs to feel that we're an AI company, right? It needs to be in their DNA, and we want to incentivize them quickly to do that.
That is just a great idea. Seriously, I may take that one and try and implement it on our own. So thanks
Yeah,
for
I mean it
sharing
pays
that.
for itself. Like that's what I realized. The value that you can get in terms of output is even if each employee improves by 10%, you would have already paid for whatever you did in terms of your event and gifts and whatever. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's at an exponential level, right? I mean, 500 or 1,000 bucks. If you're getting 10% lift on your employee from a productivity perspective, that's just huge. What's one area of the business, Rudy, that you wish you could get more AI focused or AI assisted on?
I think customer support, we haven't been able to add that. I think it's just to do with bandwidth. We've been focusing on building our own products to do AI that we've not had time to internally look at that. I'm actually keeping December open for that because I realized November and December are two good months in hospitality because you're not going to be building a lot of things or signing new deals because everyone's busy. It's the peak of the season. So I think my goal in December is to sit back and really see that how can we at least provide the first level of automation through support for our hotels using an AI agent because I think our team is definitely overworked. We've been scaling quite rapidly, and you can't always add people to solve that problem because even you add people, training them, getting them up to speed, then there's attrition. All of this creates churn because you will have hotels who get disappointed. So we want to at least do first level of support through AI, which means that if you ask, "Hey, I want to update my prices, how do I do it?" Can an AI agent say, "Hey, go here, click this, click that," the basics at least, and I think that would help our team get some breathing space, and I think they would hate me a little lesser then.
I love it. I love it. Rudy, this has been tremendous. I want to say thank you. Where can our listeners find you and where can they learn more about Hotelzify?
Yeah, so our website is hotelzify.ai. That's hotelzify.ai. And if not that, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me with the name Rudy Ganesh. Always, that's the best way. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. And I have my email ID there as well. So if someone wants to, happy to connect with there as well.
Cool. We'll make sure all that is included in the show notes. Rudy, great conversation. Really appreciate all the transparency and insights that you gave us. Best of luck to you and the rest of the team on your journey. I'm definitely out there cheering for you. And would love to have you back at some point in time in the future and see how the growth of the company is going. But I'm going to definitely go bookmark Hotelzify and get connected with you on LinkedIn because I think you're onto something and definitely appreciate you sharing the story with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love the fact you're having a show like this, and I hope it helps the community in general as well.
Well, thank you so much. So do we. Thanks everybody for listening. Once again, we'll be back with another show in the next couple of days, and stay tuned. Rudy, thanks so much.
Okay, bye bye.